guys, Comics Kid 2099 here, and I have a movie that I want to talk to you about. Megamind from 2011. This is actually a movie, I watched it a few days ago, and I actually filmed a review yesterday morning, and then I wasn't really happy with my review because it's really hard to talk about this movie without spoiling things. In fact, I'm still not entirely sure how much I'm going to give away when I talk about this movie. I contemplated just reading the back of the movie, but the back of this DVD case actually reveals more about the movie than what I knew when I was going into this movie. And so I think I just want to tell you what I knew about the movie before I watched it, and then try to avoid any further spoilers beyond that. So this is a superhero story. It's also a subversion of a superhero story. And basically, the characters here are very familiar characters that you've seen before, especially if you're a fan of Superman. You've got the Superman character, the Lois Lane character, and the Jimmy Olsen character, and then you have Megamind. And Megamind isn't really an analog for an existing Superman character. He's kind of his own thing, but you've got Metro Man, that's this guy right here, voiced by Brad Pitt. You've got Roxanne Ritchie, voiced by Tina Fey, and then way up here, I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, you've got the Jonah Hill character who, he's the Jimmy Olsen character, voiced by Jonah Hill. And then Megamind is right there in the center, voiced by Will Ferrell. And so, like I said, I don't want to spoil too much about this movie. There's a lot of things that I could spoil that I didn't know about the movie going into it, because I only saw the trailer, I think, one time, and I thought, that looks like a fun movie. I probably would have loved it a whole lot if I was 12 or 13. And then I didn't really give the movie much thought. And it's not that I was being a snob about it, it was mostly that these days I don't watch a lot of animated movies, and I guess that does sound sort of snobby, but a lot of it is I don't feel like I have time to watch movies, period. I do watch movies, I just don't watch as many as what I used to. And so I kind of felt like, okay, that movie looks like it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I'm probably never going to get around to seeing it. Well, then I ended up getting this movie for $1, and I thought, for $1, even if it's the worst movie ever, it's still just $1 and I can watch it. This wasn't the worst movie ever. This is a great movie, a lot of fun. It's done by DreamWorks. I know there's a lot of people out there who are huge Pixar fans, to the point where any animated movie like this, it's kind of a CGI animation, any movie like this that's not done by Pixar, they kind of snub their noses at. And I'm going to say right now, if you're one of those people, you really love Pixar, you would lay down your life for a Pixar movie, give this movie a chance, because it's pretty good, and in my opinion, if you didn't know all the Pixar studio films by heart, you could almost be fooled into thinking that this is a Pixar story. It's that good, and I'm not one of those Pixar fanboys. There are Pixar films that I still haven't seen that I don't really have any desire to see. So I'm not one of those people who thinks that Pixar can do no wrong. I do recognize that they've done some really great stuff, but I also recognize that other studios can do some really great stuff, and this is one that I think is really good. This is a movie about deciding what kind of role you are going to fill in life, and also determining if you can escape a role once you have filled that role. That's something might be a little bit spoilery, but I think talking about themes isn't really spoilery, especially since that is sort of in the trailer of the movie. But Megamind is a character, he's not evil, it's more that society has kind of forced him into this niche that he is filling at the beginning of the movie. In a lot of ways, this movie reminds me of the sing-along vlog of Dr. Horrible, which came out a long time ago, like 2007 or so, and I haven't seen it since it came out. But this movie does take a very different path than Dr. Horrible. Without spoiling too much, Dr. Horrible is quite a bit more bleak at the end of the movie, and that may have even spoiled too much for that. This doesn't go nearly as dark. This movie, even at its darkest moments, it still finds a moment to laugh at itself and to make the audience laugh. There's one scene at the very beginning of the movie where when Megamind is a baby, see, he's an alien, and his parents are sending him to Earth where he can survive the destruction of his planet. Kind of like Superman. And instead of this being a really sad and tragic scene that it should be because of the circumstances, his mom says, okay, here's your minion, he's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. And then his dad says, and here's your pacifier, don't forget that. it's a funny moment in a scene that otherwise could have been played a little bit sad. But the movie doesn't let it get to that point because it wants the audience to be laughing. And even at its worst moments, I mean, there are, and when I say worst, I mean its darkest, saddest moments. Even at those moments, sometimes it doesn't go for the laugh to make the audience remember that this is a comedy, but most of the time it tries to keep the audience laughing. And I think that's not an especially easy task. Sometimes a movie can try too hard to make an audience laugh, and you can tell. This is one that doesn't try too hard, and when it does try, it usually lands the landing pretty good. What else do I want to talk about? Like I said, Megamind, he is a character who he tries to do good, especially at the beginning of the movie. He's trying to be a good person, but society basically just refuses to let him be a good person. And it's basically when he's like 8 or 9 years old when he says, okay, society keeps punching me down, I'm going to punch right back. And so this is a character, like I said, he's not evil, he's just doing what society kind of expects of him to do. And that's a thematic through line of this movie. Do you have to do what society expects you to do, or should you do something that you want to do? Should you follow your own dreams, or should you just do what everyone else dreams for you? That is a thematic through line for a few different characters. I would say 3 right off the top of my head, maybe 4, but the 4th one is kind of a stretch. And I don't want to mention names because, again, I feel like that would be spoiling things that I don't want to spoil. This movie, I don't have a whole lot else to say. It's a really fantastic film. I was thoroughly surprised, and I knew it was going to be a pretty good film. When I saw the trailer, I thought it looked really funny. I just didn't think I would have time to watch it, or, you know, if I found it, I didn't think I'd find it for $1, which is a fantastic deal. I'm very cheap, by the way, in case you haven't figured that out. So I knew this was going to be a good film. I just didn't know it would be this good. This is a really great film. This is one that if I had an 8-year-old kid who wanted to get into superheroes, and I was like, I don't necessarily want him to be reading comic books where Black Adam is ripping terrorists in half. Maybe I'll just let him watch Megamind instead. This is something that it's very child-friendly. It skirts the line a little bit, but it doesn't do so in a way that's blatantly obvious. For example, another DreamWorks movie would be Shrek, and in that movie, it's a little bit more obvious that it's like, hey, let's throw in some not so G-rated language. And it's not necessarily like a foul-mouthed movie, Shrek, but it's a little bit more foul-mouthed than Megamind. And so this is something I would not mind at all giving to a little kid who likes superheroes, but you're a little iffy on if you want them to take the plunge and start reading superhero comic books, which these days are more geared towards like 13-year-olds and older. So that's all I have to say, I think, about Megamind. I have more to say, but I don't want to say anything else without spoiling it. And so I hope that you guys... I hope I wasn't too vague about this movie. I hope that you guys were interested in this movie based on what I had to say, and I hope that you will check it out, even though I didn't say a whole lot about the movie, because I'm trying to not spoil too much. And like I said, I filmed a review yesterday that was incredibly spoilery, and I didn't want that to be the final cut of this review. So, that's all I have to say about Megamind. I hope that you guys liked this review. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back later in the week with a different kind of video. So I will see you guys then. Have a great rest of your day.